Hello, my name is Paul, and I wrote this book, this one, called Stick Boy. It's about a boy. He's a stick figure in a 3D world, a world just like ours, where he's quite different. Hello to Miss Knowles' class at North Wingfield Primary and Nursery Academy. This is a video just for you guys, because Miss Knowles asked me very kindly if I would talk to you a little bit about what I do and stuff like that. She's given me some questions. I'm going to read the questions now and try to answer them one by one. The first question is, what got you into writing? What got me into writing? When I was small, when I was like 7 or 8, I loved making up stories, and one of my favorite things about being in school was writing stories. And I would write stories about, like, I don't know, all sorts of things: wolves, cornflakes, sheep, castles, mountains, adventures. I really liked adventure stories, and I kind of still do. And Stick Boy is a bit of an adventure story. But I think what got me into writing was reading. I used to read loads, and I had all of these stories sort of mixing around in my head, and they kind of, I think, because I was, I don't know, like, not eating all the stories, but like absorbing all the stories. They sort of mix together, and then those little ideas from other stories bump into ideas from different stories, and then they all combine. And then I felt like I wanted to tell my own stories, and I did. We wrote in school. I was really lucky. My teachers always encouraged us to write stories, write creatively, and so we did. So I think what got me into writing was having amazing teachers and reading loads of books. Here's the next question. What challenges did you overcome? What challenges did I overcome? I think when I was small, when I was like 7, 8, 9, 10, I didn't have that many challenges to writing. The only thing that got in the way of writing was doing my chores. Like we had to like sweep the floor and do the dishes and vacuum the car and stuff like that, and help around the house. So that would mean maybe I had less time for reading and writing. Maybe what got in the way of reading or writing was reading loads. I loved reading. I love going to the library and getting books out of the library, like a pile of books on a Saturday morning, and reading them all. And then maybe that got in the way. But I don't think there were too many challenges. I think as a grown up, finding time to write is the biggest challenge. But it's really important to me to write. It's something I really love. So I work to find the time to do it. Let's try the next question. What were your experiences of English at school? I grew up in Ireland. You might be able to tell by how I sound. And we speak another language there. We speak Irish, and I'm sure loads of you guys speak other languages too. So when you have that happening, it sort of helps to appreciate um, language when you kind of have a bit of two. Like Neil Moran Gaeilge Gomanish, like I don't speak a lot of Irish now because I live in England. I live in London, and I think it does help to kind of the sounds of different languages kind of creep into your imagination or into your writing. So for me, my experience of English at school was really rich. We studied Irish language poets in translation, so we translated their poetry into English so we could understand it. But we listened to the music of the language in the original Irish. So we had sort of two kind of ways of listening to words, or kind, yeah, two ways of enjoying the language, and I think that has helped me to appreciate English as a language. Um, that's my experience of English in school. We did a lot of stuff around like grammar and punctuation when I was about 10, and I still remember some of that. But for me, communication is like the most important thing. So I make lots of mistakes when I'm writing. I get my grammar wrong. I don't know what a fronted adverbial is. But that's okay. I'll learn. And when you write a book, there are other people to help you with all that stuff. So just like a teacher would help you in school, there's this person called an editor who helps you with your English to make sure that the words are the grammar is correct when it goes on the page. So when someone reads it, they don't think that sounds weird. because the editor has already read it and checked it and made sure that everything sounds like it should sound. But my experience of English at school was I loved it. It's like traveling without going anywhere. When you read, you're like inside someone else's experience of a different place, of different people, of a different time. Yeah, I think writing is incredible. Writing and reading and English. There's another question. Question 4. What was your inspiration for Stick Boy? Um, I tell you what. So here's the thing, right? I work in a publisher. My job is the art director, and I work with illustrators who are artists. They're the people who draw the pictures for the books. I work with them to help them to figure out what to draw to go along with the words in the story. That's my job. And part of my job is helping to come up with the stories themselves, come up with the ideas for the stories. So in when I'm doing that, I kind of think about what I want my characters, what I want to happen to the characters, and we all do this in our jobs in publishing. So we think of stories, and then we call or we email writers, and we say we've got this idea for a story. Could you try to write it and see if it works? So we were doing that with our stories, and most of my stories were about kind of about one thing. So even if the characters were bears, or if they were foxes, or if they were elephants, the stories were usually about this one thing. And the one thing that most of my stories were about was it's okay to be yourself. You will find friends. That was like the central thing of lots of my stories. So part of that, like being yourself, is showing people how you feel. So in my story ideas, I was sort of trying to explain or show how people felt by their behavior, by what they were doing. And then when I was thinking about this, I was thinking like, well, what if everybody knew how you felt? Um, they just knew by looking at you. What would that be like? What if they looked at your face and they thought, oh, there's something up. I think he's worried, or I think he's upset, or I think he's sad, or I think he's like having a laugh or something. But there was something about your appearance that you people knew how you were feeling. And that's where the idea came from. So I wondered about like how that would look like if you were a boy or a kid, and that was the case. And that's what happens to Stick. So here you can see, you might have seen this one already, but here you can see he's anxious. He's really anxious. He's on his way to class. He's got this ridiculous map. He doesn't know how he's going to get there, but it's written on his face. You can see he's all wobbly around. And then later on in the book, he talks about how well, we know how he feels because it's in the text, but he talks about we hear about the dark, swirling, heavy dread, and you can see it in his belly. But other times he can hide that by hiding it under the table, but it's really tricky. So the idea came from, the inspiration was wondering what it would be like if you could not hide your feelings. It was really, really difficult to hide your feelings, and it kind of is difficult to hide your feelings. Your friends and your family will kind of spot when something's not right. Like my family and my friends were like, "Are you okay?" But sometimes you want to hide your feelings, and that's what Stick tries to do, but it's trickier for him. Uh, yeah, that's where the inspiration comes. There's another question here. Oh, there's a challenge. Before we do the challenge, I'm going to do 5 very quick top tips about reading and writing. Number 1 tip is this one. Read. That's my number 1 tip. Read loads of books. Read as much as you can. Go to your school library, go to your bookshop, borrow them from your friends. Read. Number 2 tip, and this might sound silly, but it's true, is write. Write loads. Write. If you don't have an idea for a story, you can write about some characters. You can say, oh, imagine a character, and it is a jumper with eyes, and it doesn't know how to talk, so it needs to find a sewing needle to make a mouth for itself to talk. That is a really silly story, but there's no story. It's just talking about a character. So you can like imagine a character in a place and give them something to do. So they're waiting in a cafe for their coffee, but their coffee's not coming, and they're wondering what's going on. And then you imagine what happens in that moment, but there's no story. You're just imagining a character. Number 3 is make Mistakes. Mistakes. Make mistakes. Make mistakes. Make loads of mistakes. Making mistakes is a huge part of writing and drawing, and getting things wrong and getting things wrong again will help you to get things right. And that ties into this other one, which is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice is a huge part of writing and drawing. When I do my when I draw for when I'm drawing, I practice all the time. Every every drawing I do, I will have drawn all the characters lots and lots of times. If you have a look on my Instagram, there's a little video on the World Book Day post that shows what it's like to draw a scene in a book. You start off really rough, and then you draw it again a little bit better, and then you draw it again a little bit better, and you draw again a little bit better until you're happy with what you have. And then your skills improve through practice. It's like a muscle. It's like training a muscle to be stronger, or training yourself to be more skillful at football or tennis, or training yourself to be better at games. The more you practice, the better you get. And then the last one is this one, number 5. I'm going to put it over here so you can see it. And it is a really simple one. This one is have fun. That's probably the most important one. Don't take it too seriously. Drawing is fun, and writing is fun, and making up stories is fun, and creating silly situations and silly characters do silly things is a lot of fun. Whatever you do is great. Whatever you create is great, and have fun doing it. We're going to go back to the main camera now, and I'm going to stop talking in this silly voice, and I'm going to tell you about the challenge. My challenge to you is to create a cover for the next episode in the Stick Boy Adventures. I would like you to imagine you are Stick Boy, and what adventure are you going to go on next? So with the cover, you could give the cover like you could give the story a name: Stick Boy and the Attack of the Sausages. Maybe not Attack of the Sausages. Stick Boy and the amazing, incredible, exciting thing that you're going to make up. Also, write the opening. So you've read the first chapter of Stick Boy. If you haven't, have a look on my website on stickboy.tv, and you can download the first chapter and read it for free, of course. That and see how I opened the story in book 1. I'll give you a hint. The story begins with Stick Boy running. He's being chased by Sam. We haven't met Sam yet. We don't know who he is. Stick Boy doesn't know who she is. We meet new characters. We learn some things about these characters. We learn some things about Stick. All of this happens in the first chapter. When you're creating your opening for your sequel, where you're imagining yourself is Stick Boy, where does it take place? Who does Stick Boy meet? What's happening? What's the weather like? How is Stick feeling about the situation he's in? How do the other characters feel about the situation that they're in? One of the things to think about is, what do people want? Most characters want something. The fox wants a chicken box, or half of a chicken box from outside the takeaway chicken shop. A butterfly wants to find a flower. Stick Boy, we know from book 1, wants to find friends. What happens? What does he want in book 2? What's the thing that's going to keep him going? He has a wish. There's some sort of wish that he has. On the other side of his wish, there are things that he's afraid of. We don't know really what he's afraid of in book 1. I'm not going to give any spoilers. But when you're writing book 2 and you're imagining yourself as Stick Boy, think about the things you want, and think about the things that you're afraid of. And then when you've done that, think about that for the other characters too. What do they want, and what are they afraid of? And these things will help you discover what the relationships between the characters are, what happens when they meet each other, and what happens when two characters want the same thing. or what happens when two characters are afraid of the same? Where does the story go then? So that's your challenge. Imagine yourself a stick boy, create the opening of a story, think about what you want or what you're afraid of as stick boy and what that is for the other characters, and also come up with a cover and a cool title. Not Stick Boy and the Attack of the Sausages. Although maybe not. Who knows? It depends. It could be huge robotic sausages. Guys and girls and everyone in between, thank you so much for listening to me rambling. I hope you have fun with your challenge, and I am really excited to see what you all come up with. Miss Knowles, I'm sure, will let me know how it all goes. Stick Boy, this book, which I wrote, have a read of it. Let me know what you think online or on Topsta or wherever you review books. I would love to hear what you think. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Paul, and I wrote this book.